Hello, dear Facebook users. Today is a very special day because today is Thursday. It means we come together to talk about English. But the importance today is doubled because today we're going to talk about letter writing, which is a topic that was requested by our audience throughout the whole period of our classes. So today we're going to talk about and we're going to discuss how to format a business letter, and we're also going to unfold all the integral segments of letter writing. In the world of business, letter writing is considered to be a formal method of communication between two parties with the purpose of delivering messages and delivering information related to business. And when you're writing to a potential employer, or when you're writing to your colleague or business partner, the letter format and the layout is almost as important as what you're writing. And most professional documents have a specific formatting standards. And if the format is not correct, and if the spacing between the paragraphs is not very clear, or for example, if you're using not a traditional form of font sizes or styles, it can reflect poorly on you and on the general letter. So first and foremost, when writing a business letter, prefer and give your preferences to letterhead format. A letterhead, okay? So a letterhead format. A letterhead often includes the name of the organization on behalf of which you're writing. It contains contact information. It contains the address of the organization, and it also contains the logo of the organization. And this is preferable than any A4 paper size. A letter format is highly important because it can help to represent a company and build a good impression on the company's professionalism to the people who are going to read your letter. When you're writing a letter, try to align your text to the left. That is something of this side, okay? Something like this. When you align your text to the left, first of all, it is easy to read and it looks really neat. Single space your paragraphs, that is the spacing between the lines inside the paragraph should be a single one. But when you want to differentiate between different paragraphs, when you want to finish up one paragraph and start the other one, then better have double space between the paragraphs. And when writing a letter in English, give your preferences to font size 12. That is the general, and the specific font size should be 12. And the font style in English, which is considered to be a business-like and professional, that is Times New Roman or Arial. There is no need to turn to any specific font styles because they don't look business-like, and try to avoid italicizing, bolding, underlining, etc. when writing a letter. I would advise that you skip contractions as well. That is no don'ts, no doesn't, can't, etc. So try to avoid contractions as well. And break your letter into specific paragraphs, as I said a bit earlier. Any letter, any business letter, contains specific information. That is, first of all, the writer's contact information, which includes the name of the person and the address, then the date. And in English, when you write a date, it is a bit different than in case of Armenian. In English, when we write the date, we first of all write the month, then the day, and then the year. That is, we write, for example, December 15th, 2017. Okay. Generally, when you write a business letter, the writer's information and the date is written on the right side, and after it, on the left side, aligned to the left, you come up with the name and with the address of the recipient. That is, it looks like this actually. Okay, so this is the writer's information, contact information, and if you pay attention, well, here, okay, let me find it. Okay, it's this one. You come up with the date, and on this side, you write the recipient's contact information. That is the name, the address, and something of the kind. The actual letter starts with a salutation, and then the actual letter, the content of the letter, closing of the letter, and your signature. Okay, so salutations. Using a proper greeting sets the tone for your letter. It shows the recipient that you are well aware of the general business etiquette. And when writing a business letter and when greeting a person, in a business profile, try to avoid words like hello, hi, hey, or something of the kind, because they are very, very informal. Instead, turn to more formal expressions like, for example, dear, which is followed by the name. And the name generally comes with, let me find my card, with Mr. or Miss. So, okay. You come up like dear and Mr. or Miss. I want to comment about Miss. So try to avoid writing Miss or Mrs. unless you're absolutely sure that the person has specific preferences of being called somehow. I mean, when you write Miss, this is more neutral, a more general version. Okay, and you write the name. But if you're not sure about the exact name of the person, and I mean you don't know how to call the person, then you can turn to more general forms of salutation, like, for example, dear hiring manager, or dear, for example, sir or madam, or you can write like in certain cases you can write like, for example, to whom it may concern, etc. The actual letter. When writing a business letter, try to be concise. Try to keep your letter simple and targeted. And generally, the first paragraph includes the main purpose and states why you're writing the letter. The general forms of expressing the reason why you're writing the letter might be, for example, the purpose of my writing is to inform you, or, for example, you can say, I'm writing with regarding, or I'm writing in connection with, or with reference to our prior telephone conversation on Monday, I would like to, and things like that. And depending on the reason of your letter, the wording might be absolutely different. So when you're writing a letter to inform about something, you can start like, I'm glad to inform you that, or we regret to inform you that, or I would be delighted to tell you that, and you go on with the main point. But you write letters not only to inform, but sometimes to complain as well. And when you're complaining, to put it like mildly, not to sound aggressive, you can start like, I regret to say, or I'm writing to complain about, or at instances you can write, I'd like to, for example, receive a full compensation for my damages, or etc. And when you write a letter to apologize for something, then you can say, for example, we apologize for, or please accept my sincere apologies for, or I'm afraid I will not be attending the meeting, or etc. And to make a request, because sometimes the main reason of your letter is to ask for something, to request. That is, you can start, for example, like, could you possibly, for example, let's say, extend my deadlines to, or I would be grateful if you could, and you go on with your actual request. And the following paragraphs, the paragraphs coming immediately after the first one, are very specific, and they come up with a lot of details. That is, you state specific, for example, requests, figures, and anything of the kind. Okay, and the final paragraph of the body of the letter generally restates the purpose of your writing and calls for action or requests something. Okay, and if we're done with, for example, the actual salutation, the text, we stand at the very, very edge of closing the letter. Close your letter as neatly as you have started. Don't forget about the polite forms, and if you request and if you ask for any further contact, then you must say, for example, I'm looking forward to hearing from you, and you go on. And I want to comment over this very expression, like, I'm looking forward to. Generally, when you come up with this expression, it should always be followed by an ing form. That is, I'm looking forward to hearing from you. I'm looking forward to discussing it from you. You can never come up like, I'm looking forward to see you. So this is not correct. The correct way is to come up with an ing form at the end when you express when you come up with the expression of I'm looking forward to. Okay, or you can say, for example, please reply as soon as possible, because and you state why it is important. Or you can say, if we can be of any further assistance, please contact me or contact us. Or if you require any further information, feel free to contact me, etc. Don't forget to thank the recipient for the patience, for the assistance, and for the time. And you can express your gratitude by saying, for example, thank you for helping me to, for example, solve the problem, or thank you in advance, thank you for the advice so far, or you can also say, I appreciate your help in this matter, or thank you for your time, etc. And an ideal closing generally conveys your respect towards the recipient and leaves the recipient with a very positive impression and a note about you and the letter itself. And be sure to choose letter closing that is appropriate to the topic of your letter and to your personal situation. So to do it, you can turn to the most neutral versions, like, for example, best regards, and you come up with your name, or sincerely, and you state your name, or kind wishes, respectfully, and the name, with gratitude, or with my deepest sympathy, with appreciation, etc. When closing the letter, try not to use expressions like always yours, or cheer, love, or take care, if that's a business format letter. They are very informal and they imply a level of closeness which is not appropriate in business letter writing. Don't forget to put your name and your signature at the end of the letter. And last but not least, don't forget to spell check and to proofread your letter to avoid some like typos or anything of the kind, because any kind of a typo or any kind of a mistake spoils the whole charm of the letter. Okay, so we've got 2 questions that I want to read. These questions are from our users. So Isa Nazarian is saying, and if we're not sure about the name or position, should we write dear sir, madam? I mean, is it okay to write like with a slash? If you can, for example, search to find out if I understand you right, you're talking about the gender, whether that's a male or a female, because you're like saying with a slash whether that's a sir or a madam. In case you can find out the gender of the person, that would be fine. If no, then yes. If no, then I mean, if you cannot actually find out whether it is sir or madam, then quite okay. You can put a slash and come up with dear sir or dear madam. Okay. We've got another question. It says, is it okay to write, I want to inform you? That's a neutral way of saying, instead of I want to inform you, you can turn to more formal version of I would like to inform you that. This is more informal, but I want to inform you doesn't create any kind of wrong or unpleasant tone, so that's quite fine. Now, I want you to meet Diana Seat, Cultural Affairs Officer, to talk about letter writing. Hello, Diana.
How are you guys?
We're fine, and we missed you a lot.
Oh, thank you. Me too. This is a really fun class.
Oh, thank you. That's thanks to our audience, because they are very active, and it makes me really happy. So I was saying that if that's Thursday, it means that's a kind of a, happy day for me.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I heard about your topic.
Okay.
My first question was, what's a letter?
What's a letter?
Yeah, what's a letter? Who writes letters today? It's all done over email.
Exactly. People turn to emails, but actually, if you're, I think, if you're on a very, very formal note, then letter writing this way or another is important and is crucial. And there are specific differences between ordinary, regular letter writing and email writing, and I will reveal all those secrets next time.
Yeah, so just to say, there is still a place for good old-fashioned paper, good old-fashioned ink. There's a very tactile difference to how you come across to an organization when you take the time to send something that's physical in person.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
So just a joke. But a lot of what Lilith's been saying applies equally well to any form of formal communication, any form of business communication. So I did have a few tips. Do you mind if I share mine?
Of course, of course.
You can let me know what you think of them. So it's always bad to stand out for a bad reason. What I mean by that is you don't want to be the recipient of, and you don't want to be the sender of a letter that has typos, bad alignment, wrong dates, wrong years, funny font, an awkward, ugly stain on the corner of the letter that shows you had your coffee cup there. You don't want to stand out for bad reasons. That's not the way to make yourself memorable. Most important tips from my perspective. Number one, spell check. You don't have to know how to spell English perfectly. Many native English speakers don't spell perfectly, but that's why we have spell check. It takes all of the burden off of you. There are a few tricky things that you'll have to watch out for where spell check will think it's correct, and then you'll have to manually check and make sure that it's actually accurate, like affect versus effect, and a few tricky little words that.
Like homonyms.
Right, exactly. So just be on the lookout for those, but generally spell check will do your work for you. When you finish composing a letter, put it down, walk away. Take a few minutes to think about take a few minutes to think about anything else but your letter, and then come back and read it again, because what you're going to find is that you have put questions into the mind of your reader. And then you never want to leave your reader with a question. You want to make sure that any possible question that a reader has is answered by the content of your letter. So be thorough and make sure that you don't put any facts in there that you cannot then address later on. Don't use cliches. They're tiring, they're unnecessary, and they waste valuable real estate on the letter because you only want to put relevant information there. And I heard you talking about that a little bit earlier. A letter should be thorough, but not verbose. It should answer all questions, but it needn't be that lengthy. And if you make sure to edit out cliches or unnecessary words or phrases, it will read better, it will be more accurate, but most importantly, you will appear more professional and more like you've done your research. I think you also had a question about what do you do if you can't tell the gender. If you can't tell the gender, you haven't done your research. You're not prepared to send that letter. So find out what you need to know first. So those are my tips. You can tell me what you think.
I fully agree with you, and I'm fully on the same wavelength when you are saying that you're not that specific about the whole research, that you didn't go and research whether the person is, for example, a male or a female. That's a very important thing because, for example, there are names that might belong to one gender in one language and another gender to another, which is
I'll give you an example.
Karen?
Is Karen?
Yes,
Karen.
exactly. Exactly. So when you say Karen in English, that's a female. But when you, for example, write Karen and Ms. to an Armenian man, definitely that's a man. That's a male. I mean, that's not a female. So to avoid such kind of, misunderstanding, better turn to research. Yeah, exactly.
Fully agree.
Yes.
So I think, did you just have a question that came?
Yeah. So
letters to the embassy and especially to the ambassador. So that's a really good question. He does get a lot of mail. So I know there's a perception that a lot of the mail that gets sent to the embassy doesn't get read. That is not true. We spend a very good amount of time being sure that every letter that comes in receives the response that we're able to. And even if it doesn't come immediately, it will come. So letters that are most effective to the ambassador. If it's an invitation, that is a form of letter. The earlier in advance, the better. If it is a statement like a political position or you're expressing your opinion, having structured paragraphs, as you were saying, you kind of lay out in an orderly fashion what it is that your thought is, that's very effective, and that's true for the entire embassy, obviously. And then at the end of the letter, it should be clear what action or what request is being made, because we do receive some correspondence sometimes where we can see that the person spent a lot of time writing about it, we can see that there's some good ideas that they're working on, but we don't necessarily know what the request is or why they're writing. Is it to inform? Is it to ask for support? Is it to find out about funding opportunities? And making that clear at the end of the letter is just a really good, thorough way to kind of wrap up what it is that you're summarizing.
Exactly. So actually that should be the core of the letter, and or whatever you're writing, what paragraph you're writing, you've got to hold it in mind. Why you're writing, the purpose should be obvious in every single paragraph of the letter, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But that's a great question. Thank you.
Yeah. And we've got a comment. Mark, if I'm not making a mistake, says you have to write it all Rabis style. That's the only way anyone will take it serious. Well, actually, that's a comment. I don't know even what to say, because I didn't really get what the comment was about, because it says like rabbi style. Well, if you're writing a letter, you've got to be very specific, and even if you're writing a letter to a very close person, to a friend or a family member, this way or another, that's a letter, and you've got to avoid any kind of like very, very, very informal things, like rabbi style things should be omitted. If that answers your question or your comment.
Yeah, well, so this brings up a good point, though, actually, because the question is intended a little bit more toward what are the conventions. Again, you don't want to stand out for bad reasons. You don't want to look like you don't know what the conventions are for the format of a business letter or for the format of a professional letter. And so there's plenty of online resources that can help you. Like, how many tabs do you indent the title? Where is it that you start the address? And just for basic formatting like that, to show that you know how to do so already makes you appear much more serious as an interlocutor.
Yes, and actually, if that's a business letter, the profile, the format should be very, very business-like. They shouldn't go to general formats and to general, even vocabulary. You've got to be very specific about the word choice, about the format, everything. Everything should be formal, because this creates a specific impression about you and the organization itself.
Right. As you were saying, it's better to say, I would like to inform, rather than I want to inform, because you sound more professional.
Yes, and businesslike.
And more businesslike.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, if I think of any more tips, I'll write in on the comments in a bit.
Yes, we would really appreciate that.
Okay. Good luck. Enjoy. Keep the questions coming.
Thank you very much.
Very welcome.
And before we wrap up the lesson, I want to pass over the homework, previous lesson homework, in case you decide to check it. So the first one says, at the beginning of your presentation, you can say, I'm going to talk about. The second one, you can also say, I'm going to give you some facts and figures, and that's an expression. Facts and figures is a specific expression, okay? When you go to the next part of your presentation, you can say, I'd now like to move on to. When you talk about a graph, you can say, this graph shows you. Why not demonstrates? Why not indicates? Because only the word show can be followed by you. You nearly never say demonstrates you or indicates you or anything of the kind. If you want to show that one thing is directly linked to the next thing, you can say, this leads me to my next point. When you want to show that you have finished your presentation, you can say, that brings me to the end of my presentation. You can then say, thank you for listening. If you want to invite people to ask you questions, you can say, please feel free to ask questions. If you reply to a question, you can say, does this answer your question? And the final one, if you want to repeat, clarify, or say something in a different way, you can say, put another way. So this brings me to the end of the presentation, of today's presentation. We have one more comment. So Isa Nazarian says, about research, I did my best to find the name of my future employer, but I've got no information even about the gender. But thanks for the answer. Thank you for the question as well. In case you cannot really find out, then you can turn to more general ones, which are not very, 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 very sticky. Besides, you've got to bear in mind that better turn to a neutral one instead of hurting people. Okay, so thank you for your attention. Thank you for your patience to stay with me till the end. I want to remind you that we still have two classes. That is the next Thursday and the other one. So since the letter writing topic is very, very bulky, our next class is again going to be devoted to letter writing. We're going to discuss the types of the letters. And our next meeting is going to take place on December 21 at 5 p.m. And I will impatiently wait for you till the 21st of December. Thank you for your attention. Goodbye.